Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order this morning's meeting of the Architectural Review and Planning Board of June 23rd, 2022. And with that, Renee, please will you take the roll call?
Mr. Canfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes.
But I also note that our Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro is present, our Town Manager Greg Dunham, our Town Clerk, and myself.
Thank you. I hope you had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting. And with that, I request a motion to approve them, unless there are any amendments, changes. In that case, we have a motion.
I'll approve.
To approve minutes.
Second.
Mr. Canfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes. Are there any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, arrangements to the agenda for today?
No, sir.
Thank you. We can see our meetings that we've got coming up. I've already said at the last meeting I won't be here for next month's meeting. Are there any more withdrawals, or does anyone know if they'll be here?
As of right now, I can be here.
Me too.
All right.
Great.
And then we have Mr. Green, who will be here for the first time that day. So that is all we have. So like, I really need y'all here. And you'll probably be chairing the meeting that day.
Okay, thank you for that. And now we move on to the public hearing part of this morning's meeting. Are there any ex parte communications?
I have spoken with Mr. Dorsheimer about his project. The communication was all procedural in nature.
And I have also spoken with Mr. Dorsheimer about the application, and again, it was all procedural and how to move forward. Thank you. Renee, please will you administer the oath to anyone who wishes to speak in this forum today?
Stand, raise your right hand if you're going to speak. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes.
And make sure I get your names. Okay.
And so we move on to the first item on our agenda, an application submitted by Richard Bloomer as agent for Joseph and Laura Pahota, owners of the property located at 996 Pelican Lane, Gulfstream, Florida.
Mr. Chairman, may I just make one comment?
You may.
On the staff report, under approvals requested, under the third variance listed there to reduce the pool setback, it should be 20 feet to 2 feet.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bloomer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Richard Brummer. I'm with Opus Homes. I'm representing Mr. Joe Pahota and his wife Laura. We're designing a house for 996 Pelican, two-story house, a brand new CMU. We designed the house in the gosh, I'm running out of words. Sorry.
Don't worry, take your time. This isn't a race.
Yeah, basically, we, took in the design into, an Anglo-Caribbean design house. It's a little bit short of 3,000 square foot. We took around, and if you see on, we put a few pictures about around the neighborhood and, the different styles of architecture. And we feel that it's a house that, runs with the area. We took in consideration all the design guidelines as far as setbacks and minimizing, all these big houses and trying to reduce and make it suitable for the neighborhood. We are requesting these 3 variances for a very particular situation that we have in this property. There is like a I would want to call it like a ghost property on the back that was not in our knowledge, and I think it was not in the town's knowledge, and of course not in the owner's knowledge, that threw us a curveball basically on the design, because physically the property is a certain size, but jurisdictionally speaking, on the Gulf Stream is a little bit smaller. So that gave us some challenges, and that's the reason why we're requesting the 3 variances. This doesn't mean that if physically you consider the 2 properties together, the house will be larger than the 2 properties, complying with all the requirements as far as setbacks, floor area ratios, etc. So that's basically what we're presenting here to you today.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Oh,
or
sorry, I thought you were
anybody
going
else?
to go through the presentation terms.
It's basically, if you want to go through, just
I think it would be important to look at the layout of the parcel 1, parcel 2, so there's an impression of the juxtaposition.
Oh, okay. So basically, that in the screen, we have the house in question. That is the property. There's a house that's going to be demolished and put a new house on it. That's more from the east side. Then we took a couple of pictures of surrounding houses to show the differences in architectural styles, more of a Spanish, colonial, a few other different styles. And there's the property actually next to ours. So that's a little bit the surroundings, the back of the property.
Can you pause it? Can I say something?
Can you come to the podium? You can stand there together at the same time. That's fine. And just give your name to.
My name is Joe Pahota. I'm the homeowner, myself and my wife.
Mr. Pahota, real quick, were you sworn in at the beginning? Okay.
Yes. The one thing I just want to make sure I mention, there was a letter that was submitted to the town by Chris Bernardo, who was helping my wife and I deal with, these 2 properties. We own them both, they're contiguous, but basically it's like 10,900 square feet of property that's next to each other. The little strip there near the water of about, goes the length of the water, is about 700 square feet. The main property, which is, a little over 10,000 square feet is the one in Gulfstream, and the Wasp property is that little strip of, across the water. It's literally one property. But I just wanted to make sure you had a, one had his letter, and 2, could visualize the situation.
Is it just the concrete, like the seawall part of it? Is there part of the grass also?
It's a little bit part of the grass.
Yeah.
There's the seawall plus another probably 4 feet of grass.
And I know that's very central to the 2-plot discussion, is very central to this application.
Yeah.
And we did receive a copy of the letter and we've read it, so thank you.
So just to go through a few other pictures, that is to the east side of the property. You can see that basically, half of that grass is part of the lost parcel.
Not
A little bit less, yeah. Then, the site plans that, of course, you have already, copies of them. Floor plans of the house. That's the first floor. And as you can see on the second floor, we have set back the house, the whole second floor, to reduce the mass of the building. To maintain the harmony on, it's not scrolling.
It's just like really, it's not a delay.
Okay.
So here, I'll show this one so you can see where you are.
And then, slide for the elevations of the house, front and rear. And then the 2 side elevations, as you can see, all elevations, they have, substantial setbacks of the second floor, precisely to reduce the volume, maintain that harmony that we have. Here are some volumetric studies that we did of the house, so you can see, all the roofs of the first floor and how they interact with the second floor. That is a roof study that we did for the house. And finally, some renderings of the house. Street views of the house. That's basically it. Thank you very much.
And in terms of, can I just check, in terms of the, excuse me, I'm trying to get some of the things out of the discussion. In terms of the style characteristics for an Anglo-Caribbean, this checks all the boxes. There's no difference.
When I first looked at this, the first thought I had was contemporary.
Right.
I do too.
Because
So
that's one of the reasons I was asking. I mean, in terms of the design, and we obviously have certain styles.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the reason, because the area has different descents from Spanish to more contemporaries to more, classical Anglo-Caribbeans, Bermuda styles, etc.
And the roofing color, is that?
It's gonna be a light gray tile,
Okay.
like the one in the picture.
Okay.
And the house is gonna be white. It's gonna have siding on the second floor and smooth stuck on the first floor with all the bendings and, shutters and outriggers, like, based on the Anglo-Caribbean style.
But this house, we have to okay the variances, correct? Before this house can be
Yeah, absolutely.
approved, right?
Absolutely. I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
That's,
And I have one question about the house
Sure.
also, and we can go back to the other stuff. The front doors, are they all glass or do they have mullions in them? 'Cause
They're
I
gonna
think
have some
They
more.
do, okay.
Yeah, we partition all the house. I mean, because, making it full glass, originally we were trying to do that, but it doesn't go with the style, the Anglo-Caribbean. Anglo-Caribbean has mullions.
And
So-
then on the, I don't see any shutters really on the front except the top. Are there any
Yeah,
on
the
the back?
second floor is the only one that has those shutters. There's not that many other windows on the, if you look at the.
I couldn't tell from the back. I didn't think there was.
I don't think they're in the renderings, but they are in the elevations and the drawings. Yeah, I noticed
Page
that
are you
too.
on?
P5.
I got you. But there's no shutters on the back at all.
No.
okay. Any more questions on the design? No. Okay, so.
Well, actually, hold
Yeah,
on.
sorry, Rob.
On P5, it does show it looks a little bit like siding.
Yes, the second floor has siding.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that didn't
Yeah,
come
the
across in the rendering. Okay,
You have to zoom in to see the siding.
okay.
It's a typical 6
Stop
inches, it's a typical 6-inch siding.
Gotcha, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when we address a variance, 1, 2, or 3,
Mhm.
there are 8 criteria which have been addressed in the letter which was sent to us. And it has to meet all 8 criteria in order for us to make a recommendation, a flat recommendation. There are other options in terms of a conditional recommendation, a denial, etc., and other options, but we look at these 8 criteria. Can I ask what the central claim, no, sorry, I'll go back because that's unfair. My understanding is that if these 2 parcels were under the jurisdiction ownership of Gulfstream, none of this would be an issue.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's the fun, when I read through it, that's the fundamental
Yeah.
part of this case, of this application, sorry.
Yes, and combined with that, I would say it's fundamentally one property. I didn't buy 2 pieces of property, and I own those 2 properties, but I didn't buy them with the intention of having 2 properties. I really didn't even know that till the last minute. They were, it's really just one property. That's the way it appears. That's the way it's used.
The second parcel is actually, it's a, I want to say like a newly constructed sort of thing. It's not really all land. It was something that somebody else had done previously, like built farther out.
I don't know when that was
I
done.
think based on the letter and the findings from the attorney Chris Bernardo, he said that it seems like it was done in the 80s, 1980s.
Yeah, the Chris Bernardo, the lawyer on this, I think, researched, maybe at Rita's request, 50 years back, on these properties and sort of the ownership chains and stuff.
Mr. Chairman, that extra parcel and the seawall there was not approved by the town of Gulfstream, and nor was it approved by the city of Delray Beach.
Okay, and
But
you,
it is in Delray.
it is in Delray, but it was all there when you purchased the
All that
property a year
when I
ago.
purchased it.
You basically inherited it.
Well,
So I don't mean, but as in,
It's
sorry,
part of
I don't mean,
11,000
sorry,
square
I don't
foot
mean
property.
literally, but as in, that's what you bought.
yes, and it's fundamental, right? It's
Mhm.
it's a property on the water.
Water.
Without that strip, it's not on the water, right? So,
Right.
You know, it's an in-lot.
So one of the things that always is probably one of the biggest hurdles to get over in any variance application is this just through the choice? I'll actually read it. Special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, right? So the way we could look at this is you bought the parcels, you want to build a home, lovely home. You've got if the parcel, the lost, what was it called? The lost parcel wasn't there, you'd actually wouldn't have any waterfront, and
Right.
you'd have a landlocked,
Right, exactly right.
yeah, an interior setup. So there's that part which you bought as a lot. Sorry, wrong choice of words. As a whole purchase.
As a whole purchase,
Right.
exactly right.
The other part, though, is from the actions of the applicant with reference to, for example, the request for the increase of the FAR, which in square feet relates to 324 square feet additional. You could design a smaller property, and that wouldn't be a necessary, that FAR wouldn't come into play if just going forward.
Yes, if it was a small, if we count only parcel one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, I paid a lot of money
No, no.
for
no.
one lot.
Yeah.
It was on the water.
And that's the conundrum we face, the fact that you bought two lots which were overseen by two different towns.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge.
Completely unknowingly, two
Yeah.
different towns, by the way. To my knowledge, our knowledge, even our lawyer's knowledge, it was all in Gulfstream when we bought it. So this only came up after we bought it.
It didn't say under survey or anything.
No, the survey, well, the survey and the warranty deed actually, as you can see on the paperwork, it calls for two parcels. But it doesn't say anything in relation to under which municipality each parcel is. And then after we had a meeting, with the town clerk and Rita, to review this, she pointed out that there was an issue with that to, look into it. We kept looking, the deed was, correct, the surveys were correct. But then on the second, a couple of, months later, we started digging more into it, and we realized, we called the city of Delray Beach, and that's when we realized that the properties were under two different jurisdictions. Just then, at that moment. All the original design was done with the two properties and, the two parcels, not two properties, one property, but two parcels. Now, regarding the FAR and the request of that, FAR increase or reduction, depending on which way, we're looking at it. I, completely agree with the town and the requirements of the FAR and what the goal of that FAR is to, maintain a proportion between the properties and the houses that we're building. Same thing goes with the additional second floor setbacks, the ratios between the first and second floor, and I'm all for it. That kind of, conditions. This property is physically a certain size. So the proportion of the house to that physical size is according to the criteria of the townhouse. Now, number-wise or jurisdictionally speaking, yes, the property is smaller, but then the property is, the house is going to look bigger to that jurisdiction criteria of the property. So that's why it's kind of like, it's completely, for me, the first time that I'm dealing with something like this, but that is basically the situation. As far as the criteria, I think we're complying with the proportion of the house to the physical property. We're not trying to get something much larger. We're not trying to, go over the setbacks or anything like that.
We're just trying to utilize the entire property.
I think that's what it comes down to. Your request is based on the overall footprint of ownership. The area which we address is the land under the jurisdiction of Gulfstream. So from a purely procedural point of view, not procedural, actually, what do we have the ability to oversee? What does this committee have the ability to oversee? Can I just take the legal point on this, that technically, do we have the ability to make any judgments here about that lost parcel?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So in granting the variance, you are only looking at the parcel one, we'll call it, not the lost parcel. So the argument to grant the variances is that we have parcel two, it's contiguous. That's really our rear property line. So imagine, as you're applying the variance criteria, that it's one parcel. And we're only asked, this is their argument. I hate to be doing all the work for them, but.
No, well, it's actually presented. It is detailed here. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But-
Send me the bill later.
But,
And I wish Chris Bernardo was here. He's on
but,
vacation.
but they're just asking that you give them exactly what they would be entitled to if that was one parcel. So the reason the variance is needed is because we're only looking at parcel one, not both parcels together. So we do have a number of variances that are requested in a number of motions. So I don't know if, and Mr. Bernardo did provide something for the record. So we do have something in the record that you can review and determine whether or not the variance criteria are met, or you can go variance by variance and ask the architect, who seems very well versed. And we've met, he's very familiar with the property, and go through the criteria. Again, when we're dealing with variances, if you have a motion to approve, you just say, great, it's approved based on the presentation by the applicant and the submittals. If you have a motion to deny, you would recommend to the town commission which factors you don't believe were met. So if you have an issue with perhaps granting any of the individual variances, I would ask that we maybe go through the criteria so the board can get a good idea of whether the criteria are met and which ones they may recommend were not found to the town commission.
Right. So that falls into two parts. There's the granularity of, let's take the point. Do you have a copy of the letter?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Let's take, as Trey advised, each variance on its own. Then I want to go back to this point of, are we going to treat this as the owner owns this parcel? Got it? And just to confirm, this wasn't in the deed. There was no reference to this in the deed of purchase about the split.
No,
Right.
no.
Okay, thank you. In that case,
Mr. Chairman, the warranty deed does have a legal description of two separate parcels.
Yeah, there's two deeds.
yes, but does it say who?
That's what I was gonna say, but in consistent with what they're saying, it doesn't say under the jurisdiction of the city of Delray Beach. Right?
Okay, that's the key point, whether it's under the jurisdiction of Delray.
I just
You
wanted
bought two lots,
Right.
and you were not aware that Delray Beach, which I must admit, from a purchase point of view, as you said, the attorney didn't even know. That's quite a thing. But okay, so you really weren't aware that these were two lots owned by separate authorities, or not? Oh, sorry, under the jurisdiction of separate authorities. Okay, so in that case, can we address each variance that you've made the application for? And this is just for the record, this is to reduce the minimum rear setback applicable to the property from 30 feet to 21 feet. And so if you have your letter, and you just have to address literally how you address points 1 to 8, because we do have 8 criteria that have to be addressed for a variance. So it's on the second page. And not to read it verbatim, you don't have to read it verbatim, but just because otherwise we will be here till next Thursday. But just in terms of the key points, please.
Well, the rear property line, we're requesting this variance. Again, the special exception gives us, the 30 feet requirement from the property line. And if we consider the again, the parcel 2, you know, from the water line, our building is complying with the 30-foot setback. If we consider only parcel 1, that's when we have the 21-foot setback. But being, you know, if you look at all the other properties, you know, next to it, we're at the same line as the setback from the water line. I don't know if my words are making any sense.
Yeah. Because the first special condition is, and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the site, but not applicable.
Yes.
Well, I think the point that Chris Bernardo makes here about, you know, that parcels 1 and 2 have been and are currently used as one parcel, you know, is a really important point.
Okay, it says, thank you. The second point is the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from the actions of the applicant.
Yeah, precisely that. You know, when Mr. Pehota bought the property, there was a deed with 2 lots, 2 parcels.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's very common that you buy a property, has 2, 3 lots, half of that lot. So, and there was no knowledge of being under the jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. The granting of the variance will not confer onto the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other land structures, buildings under the same zoning.
Yeah, and as I was saying on my, you know, at the beginning is that, you know, if we consider the water line and all the houses on that line, basically they have the 30-foot setback. We are on that 30-foot setback. We're not asking for additional encroachment into the setback. The only condition is because our property, you know, legal property is further in, and that's why.
Right.
Can I
we-
make a point? In my mind, I see it as you are getting a special privilege because nobody else on that street will be allowed to build an unapproved, whatever it is, 20-foot out, and then use that as their setback. Because it is an unapproved piece of land, I guess it is. So
The pool would align, as you said, with everybody else's on the line because they only have the town of Gulfstream with jurisdiction over their property.
but this piece juts out farther than everybody
Well,
else.
no different than anyone else from the water, you know, under, you know, the variance. You know, we're
Because we don't know how this came about. Like this wasn't, we don't know how this portion came about. This wasn't fill, this wasn't part of dredging. So that's not part of any of this. Yeah.
Well, what the findings from Chris Bernardo was like done in the 80s, 1980s, somebody did it. As you can see, the seawall is very rusted, it has to be replaced and fixed.
But does your area not, because of this unapproved piece, does it not come out into the water farther than everybody else's? That's what it looks like from here.
Yes.
Is the seawall south?
Which is part of that measurement or not?
Yeah, if I look further back, you know, in that area, there's another piece that sticks out again. You know, you have this retaining wall here, and then it sticks out on that next property or the same property.
Yeah, I don't think we can assume this was fill, that this was filled in. I don't think we can assume that. Is that correct?
We don't know.
Right.
Again,
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the variance as it just relates to
Right.
the primary parcel, right? So, you know, I think the applicant testified that this occurred sometime in the 80s. You know, the city of Delray Beach, you know, I spoke with them. They, you know, view this as a lost parcel as well. They annexed that yacht basin and they carved out this piece here as well. So no one really knows when it appeared, but we don't have anything on file regarding a seawall application that would have indicated when that was done and whether or not it was done to extend the property.
okay, thank you. The fourth point we have to address is describe with literal interpretation of the regulations if the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning. The rules and the regulations. What is your major point in terms of if these variances weren't approved for recommendation to the commission? What would be the major, if you like, hardship that you would
have to build a smaller house,
Okay.
you know, which we really don't want to. We'd like to have some of the room, like we've got tiny some tiny bedrooms and, stuff like that, they're like, we'd like to have them bigger, but we can't, and we certainly don't want to make them smaller, like the 7-foot bedroom, they're like 12 by 13, so we'd like to be able to take a lot of things bigger. We can barely squeeze in what we, have with what Richard's designed, so, 300 square feet, if that's the amount that's in question, in the house, that means an awful lot to us.
As a percentage of the overall property.
I understand that.
And again,
same
if you look
time, I
at
think
the
about-
physical, size of the property, we're not encroaching into the allowable for the physical. So we took that into consideration because we know that we have that requirement to comply with that.
Yeah, I'm just
ratio.
trying to look at what we're supposed to look at.
Yeah.
And in my mind, number 4 is we're actually, you are being treated the same if you look at the Gulf Stream parcel, and I know this is a very strange situation.
I guess what we're asking is that, we step back and say, in reality, this is really one piece of land. And no one is being harmed by us using the land. It's equal to whatever their land is, if we consider it as one property, which it really is. It really is. That strip of land, it's got no use without the big piece of land. It's useless, right?
I know.
I know.
There's one other interesting point here that Chris Bernardo made. I don't know if he mentioned it to you along the way, but I just wanted to point out that, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not quite sure how to say this, but if you just looked at the interior lot, it's not on the waterway. So the waterway setback shouldn't apply. So there'd be a shorter setback. I think that applies with this 0.4. He describes it here, his words are better than mine, but.
Yeah, he was pointing out that it becomes a dry lot, basically. So we have to use the rear setback for a dry lot that is 20 feet instead of the 30 feet for the water lot. If we consider that 20 feet, we're asking only for
9 feet.
we're not asking basically technically for a variance for the rear setback. We're complying. So, in reality, as far as the setback goes, if we consider just the Gulf Stream parcel 1, there is no variance requirement for the front, for the rear setback. That was, Chris Bernardo's point.
Right.
And staff had looked at that and believed that the interpretation is correct, that this is a waterfront lot, given that it was originally platted as a waterfront lot. So they would ask that, staff has interpreted and believes that the waterfront setback is appropriate.
So just to go to that point, this is considered a waterfront lot.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
However, we take that view using the parcel 2, the lost piece of land. So we're considering this a waterfront lot, but we are considering it, but we're giving it the name, for the want of a better word, of a waterfront lot. But in order to have that classification or description, we have to take the Delray piece of land.
No, sir.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. The interpretation by staff was that as it was originally platted and existed, it was a waterfront lot. So parcel number 1 the code would be
have taken
interpreted.
that footprint. And somehow, as we've said, we have no idea how that parcel 2 became under the jurisdiction.
That's right.
I think there's just it's the same logical point here that, it really is one piece of land. And, I'd ask you to please consider it that way.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land. So I think you may address that, but please verbalize it. You might, it's
We're not asking
repeating,
for basically additional variance. We're not going beyond, requirements that will, as far as setbacks and FARs for the 2 parcels, we comply with that. We're not asking for any additional oversized, variances.
Okay. And number 6, granting the variance would not permit to be established or re-established any use prohibited in that zoning district. And I think we can.
I think we addressed that. That's basically trying to do a beautiful house for the town.
Granting the variance is consistent with the goals, objectives and policies and future land use map of the adopted, comprehensive plan. The response that the lawyer gave was, it's very short. But he does say that a denial of the variance, and sorry, if you want to read that second paragraph, because I've asked you to.
A denial of the variance will result in the misapplication of the code of the property, an unintended reduction of buildable footprint on the parcel, the emission of a pool, as well as 39-foot waterway setback not within any of the standard goals, objectives, and policies of town and the future land use map.
Thank you. And finally, point 8, to address granting the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighbourhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. And again, if you wish to just put on the record.
Yeah, basically, on that point, again, when we originally started designing, we took into consideration all the requirements from the town, setbacks, FARs, and using the 2 parcels, we're complying with all those requirements. So it's not an additional, it's not that we took the entire property and we're asking for variance to make a larger house for the physical property.
Right. Thank you. So I think what we're facing is we've heard that there's history to this, there's unknown history to this. We have a full picture of the 2 lots you own and juxtaposition and how they impact this application. But going back to what you said, Trey, we have to look at this in terms of the variances applying to parcel 1.
Right, that's right. So you can, again, the applicant is asking that you look at the code and grant a variance that is consistent with this being 1 parcel. But you are only looking at parcel number 1, and that's why a variance is required, because the rear property line, that's a part of the variance for the principal structure, for the minor accessory structure, and then also the additional FAR, which is not included in the principal lot. They get that extra 0.33 for that as well.
Thanks for making that clear. So, Justin, I'm going to repeat this because when we haven't had, well, in my time on the board, we haven't had a situation like this.
Yeah, well, I understand from Bernardo's experience.
It's very unusual.
And it's a difficult. And thanks, Trey, for explaining that the variances relate because we only consider lot 1. That's why if we granted them, then, sorry, not granted them, made recommendations for approval to the commission, they would only apply to lot 1, but they needed to develop the full footprint. Is that clear understanding?
Yeah.
I'm not asking for a opinion, I'm asking for the understanding, because this, as I say, we haven't had, and the fact of the legacy of what you want to build on as a full footprint is impacted by the fact that we, as our remit, can only address land that's under the jurisdiction of Gulfstream.
Right.
Okay, that's the challenge we face.
Why we're asking for the variance.
Yes, okay.
We're trying to make it difficult.
You have achieved your objective in boatloads. Okay, but now we fully understand, well, I now fully understand, and I think it's been presented in a very clear way of the decision that we have to make in terms of a recommendation. Thoughts? And I'm not putting you on the spot, Rob, but usually it's.
I mean, even just referencing the first special condition here, I think this fits the definition of peculiar. So.
I agree, it's totally peculiar. I'm just stuck on number 3 and number 4.
Okay, let's address them.
It's the
Yep.
special privilege part, which is the one kind of we always get stuck on, I think.
Yep. Number 2, yeah, the special condition. Yeah.
And I can see it both ways,
Yep.
But it is an unapproved piece of land, and I understand, I totally understand you bought it as one. It's just that we're always told to go through these.
Yep.
You know. And we're talking about one in our purview, one parcel.
Mhm.
So would we ever allow somebody else to just stick another parcel on and then ask for a variance? You know,
Yep. In terms of the unique aspects of this application, and here I have to turn to the town. I am unaware that do Delray or any other municipal town have any jurisdiction over any other land in Gulfstream? Is this unique? As far as we know.
I don't believe this exists anywhere else.
And again, for all we know, somebody is going to do exactly what you did. Look at what you purchased and they go, no, actually it's 2 jurisdictions. Because that's why I made the point. When you purchase this, there is nothing in there that says there are 2 jurisdictions. Because that is a key point of the special circumstances and conditions.
It'd be different if we did this, if we had knowledge.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to explore that. But coming on to the other point you said, Georgette, number 4.
Number 4.
The literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning. Well,
It's kind of the same one.
it is. Okay. My thoughts are there was no knowledge prior to you deciding to build this property that you had 2 different jurisdictions for the 2 parcels.
Not at all.
That's pretty fundamental to me. However, we have to look at the plot 1, and in order for you to use the footprint which you own, the total footprint, albeit with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many parcels it was, but in this instance it's 1 or 2, 1 and 2. You can't use that footprint, the total footprint, to the way that's allowed for other owners with the same footprint that was just under the jurisdiction of Gulfstream, right? So that's the challenge. That's essentially what you got.
Yeah.
So,
The key question.
Yeah, and I'm, as Rob said, point 1.
That's the difference in the privilege of the actual physical property.
And as I say, you've achieved your objective of making this one of the, it is. It's one of the most, not difficult, but it is.
Yeah.
You can't have most unique. It's either unique or not, but this is unique.
Wait till he wants to build a dock.
Yeah, that's not our problem. That's not our problem. And we do make a recommendation. This board does not have the ability to approve variances.
Right.
My feeling is that you should be allowed to move forward with this project.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
However, as I say, it goes to a vote. I would like to commend the way, and I think this is the first time we've actually had a letter that addresses all 8 points, because that goes a long way as well. We have applications for variances and we still apply the same 8 rules, and one, they're either not addressed or it's just verbiage. Whereas this, you've obviously considered this very in great detail. You've engaged the town. As you said, you've had series of conversations, discussions. You're trying to move this forward. And I think this is proof that you've used your best effort to address the concerns of the board, the town, and the code, because we have to apply the code.
Yeah,
and the only reason this is happening is because we're applying the code to parcel 1, and you own 2 parcels, which make up the total footprint. My thought is that we should, and we do have a number of options, says he, ranging from granting the application in full to considered application. There are 7. However, can I ask for a motion in terms of our thoughts here, please?
Do you want to look at just the variances to start?
Yeah, let's take each one.
Yeah, you would, by motion, you would start at, I think there are a number starting with the.
The variance to reduce the minimum rear setback.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'd ask that if any one of you has an issue with any of those points, we can bring them up now. And then if the consensus is that they're met or not, then just go with the
Do
motion.
you want me to bring up my issues now or after the vote?
At each point.
Yeah, you could bring them up right now based on, and we can have a motion. It's a little difficult
Let's make it a
with
little
three.
complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
we would have a motion and a second and then discussion, and then they would either go up or down. But if you want to bring up some issues that you have now, that would probably be helpful because, with the chair, it's going to be difficult if there's disagreement between the two of you about what motion should be made and seconded.
So in that case, let's address each variance, as you said. Points are discussed, then the motion, then up or down. Yep. Okay. So can we please address the first application for a variance to reduce the minimum rear setback applicable to the property from 30 feet to 21 feet? And now discussion and points.
This is really the major one for me, the rear setback.
Mhm.
I do see it as granting a special privilege.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, TJ. In that case, could I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to reduce the minimum rear setback applicable to the property from 30 feet to 21 feet.
Can I have a second? Am I allowed to second that? No. That's what
So how does this work?
I'm not allowed as chair. Because
Do you want me to read the motion then?
Well,
Does that work? No?
so if we have disagreement, we're going to have to come to some sort of consensus about, these. So if you can want to talk about what your issues are, then you can always second them.
we can, the motion's been made.
Correct.
Of course, Georgia.
That's why I was saying we have three, so it makes it a little difficult.
Can I make?
Yeah, you can.
What if I made the motion?
Yes, it could be the other way around, but again, it's the same part about discussion.
Mhm.
You're going to have this hung juries of full point.
You can, in this circumstance, you can second the motion, Malcolm, if you'd like
Yes.
to. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I'm going to second that motion.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
No.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. We now move on to the third variance to increase the minimum floor area ratio applicable to the property from 33% to 35.25%. Discussion.
Of course, I have discussion.
No, it's
This one is more about, it's almost, again, 3 and 4, but then there's 5. We're looking at 3 variances to get more square footage. And we're trying to make the most reasonable use of the property.
Yeah.
So the difference of whatever it is, the 300 square feet,
324 square feet.
it's a new build. We always go back to this with the new builds, and we just seem to tackle this one a lot too. So that's my issue with that one.
Okay. In the context of the other properties surrounding you, do we have any feel for how the proposed 3,692 square feet equate to the other properties? I know you showed pictures. Is it below, above? Because one of the things.
Well, some properties are about the same size. Some properties, like the first 2 pictures, that corner house, it's a much larger property.
Right.
So it's not if you look at the volumes or at the masses of the different houses, we're not, the oversized type of house in the neighborhood.
I would say that, I agree with that. I would say slightly different because I walk around the neighborhood all the time. This will not be one of the bigger houses in the neighborhood. As built, this is going to be less.
And that is one of our guidance, that it has to fit in with the surrounding properties.
Yeah.
So the discussion of the point about the floor area ratio anymore. Could I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to increase the minimum floor area ratio applicable to the property from 33% to 35.25%.
I can second that.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
No.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. Finally, the third application for a variance to reduce the pool setback applicable to the property from 10 feet to 20 feet. Discussion.
That
I
should be
mean, from 20 feet to 2.
It's 20, we had to
Just-
change.
Yeah, no, I put 20 feet,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
from 10 to 20. I read.
The pool setback is basically 10 to 2 feet.
To 2 feet.
To 2 feet, we were told it was 20.
Yeah, it's 20 feet to 2 feet.
Sorry,
That makes sense.
that makes far more
Yeah.
sense, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to scrub that last, please. The third variance
No,
application.
that's correct. 10 feet to 2 feet.
It's 10 feet to 2 feet.
Considering that, you know, the lost lot at the end.
It's that 2 feet is from
That's
the
correct.
parcel 1.
Okay.
Not from the
Right,
parcel
so
2 edge.
as it was presented to us,
Well, we changed that at the beginning, did we not?
Yeah, we did.
so just which one here is, it says was?
I'm sorry?
Town manager,
What's
is
it
it 20 feet
It's
to
20
2 feet?
20
or
to
is it
2
10
It's 20 to 2,
Mhm.
that's,
20 feet to 2 feet.
thank you.
Oh,
It's a
okay,
typo
Yeah.
in your
in that section.
The setback for the pool is 10 feet.
20 feet.
Okay.
We
Because I-
need to really, if we're
Yeah,
going
I
down the route
remember
of a
calling
variance, we need to
confirming
have
that
this
setback.
confirmed. Because.
I don't
this-
remember the exact code section, but I remember calling to confirm that 10-foot setback for the pool.
Hold on.
It's 20 feet. The pool's a minor accessory structure and it specifically says that it needs to adhere to the setback within the zoning district in which it's located. So that would be 20 feet for the north-south district for minor accessory structure connected to intercoastal waterway. Under section 7074 setbacks.
Could he be written here in this way, because, it, you know, that bigger parcel is actually landlocked and not on water? Is that why it's written this way?
I'm sorry, Mr. Pohoda. I didn't understand your question.
I guess I was just wondering.
Oh,
Since Chris Bernardo wrote this.
No, I think that was,
Yeah.
I think that was an error. The rear, let's see, the north-south rear is 15. So he just made a mistake.
So can I have the precise and accurate numbers for this variance application of record, please?
So Mr. Dunham was correct. It is a variance from 20 feet under section 7074 setbacks
To reduce, because we've got from 20
to reduce, correct?
to 2 feet.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, the third variance application is to reduce the pool setback applicable to the property from 20 feet to 2 feet. Discussion.
So it's the same numbers,
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5, and you know, it goes to reasonableness.
Yeah. I know, it's as, you can apply, well, sorry, I'm not putting words in your
Yeah.
mouth, Jay. You can apply. the
For
points
every,
you've made.
yeah.
Absolutely,
all for it, yeah.
okay.
And I hate it, but I
Yeah.
just, you know.
No, I think that's important, but there's an element of what cards do you have to build on? As I've said again, as long as there was no reference, you didn't know this until you inspected your documents. That's to me, and I'm going to say that to me, that's fundamental to this. I know we're looking at lot one, but if they're both under Gulfstream, this wouldn't be an issue.
And that's been guiding me as well, along with the fact that this is purely a one-off situation
Yeah.
that we'll likely never see again.
Let's hope
So,
not.
Yeah,
You would be creating a nonconformity within the town. And in the event that they do replace the seawall, staff may require them to put it at the rear property line of parcel 1. So just,
Can we make
So
that
you
a
know.
point of, so the applicant's aware of that? That if they actually went down that route?
That's just for your consideration. That's a staff
That's-
internal.
yeah,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
thanks.
Then the house
Just
would
like
become-
Yeah,
the
sorry.
joke about getting a dock, that's also a
Yeah,
staff
yeah,
issue that
yeah.
we're gonna have to do.
It's an approved non-conforming.
It would be-
It's a approved non-conforming.
That's right. You would be,
Potentially.
if you recommend, right, if the town commission approved these variances, it would be an existing approved nonconformity as to the setbacks for the minor accessory, the principal building, and the floor area ratio.
But if the seawall
Were to move back,
back.
I mean, either way, it would be a
You're still-
nonconformity technically because you're granting a variance from the rear property line of parcel 1 as if parcel 2 did not exist.
Okay, thanks for explaining it. Could I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to reduce the pool setback applicable to the property from 20 feet to 2 feet.
I second that.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
No,
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. And with that,
Before we move on, Ms. Smith, can you just mention for the record, so we're clear, the issues that you had, or just maybe the points you had that would maybe assist the town commission in their review as well as the applicant in their presentation before the town commission?
sure. My issues are with number 3, that it will confer a special privilege on the applicant. Number 4, that we would not be depriving, I can't see, we would not be depriving them of the rights enjoyed by other people. And number 5, the minimum required, I understand that if we put the 2 parcels together, it would be the minimum, but because it's a new build, I find it more reasonable if we just didn't do the variances. Because it's not-
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And that's typically something we do just to advise both the town commission and the applicant as to some issues that may be needing to be addressed at the town commission level. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the discussion. Yes.
I'm not totally clear. I could hear some of the conversations and I'm hoping to be honest with you. So I'm not totally clear what just happened on the 3 variants.
We made a recommendation for approval of these variances.
Thank you.
However, they now go to the commission,
And they have-
and that's why Trace said, essentially, this is all public record. The commissioners look at the discussions we've had, which is why it may have seemed that, well, you had the letter, why are you making us discuss it? It's the fact that it's now, you verbalized it, you had a chance to modify it as needed, and so they have all the opinions of this board. And now it's up to the commission to, again, consider it as an application, the variances.
Thank you.
So what you'll need to do is make this same presentation to the town commission. So you'll need to go through this one more time.
Is that like in a month or do you?
It's the second Friday of the month.
Second Friday.
Yeah.
And is there more material that's required from us or basically you guys
No.
will submit something and?
The town clerk would be happy to assist you with all of that after the meeting.
We still have 3 more motions.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes,
I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
make.
okay. Sorry, I was three more motions.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So we've addressed the variances, but there are other motions here in terms of demolition permits, land clearing, and the site plan.
Are these not dependent on the variances getting approved by the town?
This would just, I mean,
These are
it's
just your recommend.
your recommendation, so,
Okay.
you know,
The
it'd be,
motions to recommend. Can't approve.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a demolition permit to demolish the existing structure.
I second that.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? So even though I didn't vote in favor of the variances,
you can vote to deny based on the fact that you don't believe the variances should be granted, therefore a demolition permit and everything else should be denied as well.
But it stands alone.
But it's,
it does stand alone?
it does stand alone, but you're
Yeah, I'm
granting
saying, yeah,
based on the the variances being approved, so.
okay, gotcha.
Could I have a second? I second.
You just seconded, Mr.
I'll
Chair.
second, it's
Thank
easy.
you.
I second that.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Now,
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. And another motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a land clearing permit to clear existing vegetation from the building site.
I'll second that.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
No,
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. And another motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan review to permit the construction of a 2-story Anglo-Caribbean style single-family dwelling with a 2-car garage, 4 bedrooms, bonus room, and a pool. Any minor modifications to the approved landscape shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of landscaping.
I second that.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
no,
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. And as we've addressed those applications, thank you for your presentation. And you know the next steps now.
Yes, yes, and you know, it seems like there's a split vote on that, with two yeses and one no. So does that become, does that?
It's that, no, this has, it's just part of the record, but the up, down is that it was recommended for approval to the commission.
Okay,
That's
from
that.
a commission perspective,
They're not influenced at all by, yeah.
Right, but that means.
no,
no, it's a recommendation.
it's a recommendation.
Jay, you're the one
Yeah.
to approve.
And it's record that it's 2-1, but that has no bearing on their discussions. It'll be simply what you push it for. We have simply, through this due process, made a recommendation to the commission. You're very welcome. And so we move on to the second item on the agenda, an application submitted by Richard Gould as agent for Dan Dorschheimer. Has everyone been sworn in? So did you? Yeah, sorry, but I couldn't see if you were here when you did this. Thank you for that, guys.
it's hard.
Jeez. I didn't know more than that.
You know, but everybody was really nice. And everybody just. I'm torn. I know, I feel bad.
You said it's difficult. Okay. So if you could please just give me a moment. So we were waiting for Trey to return.
Shall we wait for Trey?
Are you ready?
Well,
Are we waiting for Trey? Sorry, we are waiting for Trey. I did mention.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Just having a quick discussion with Kathy, please. Continue, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Trey. Okay,
My apologies.
hi, everybody. My name is Jay Colstock. Thank you for your consideration today. I represent Dan Dorschheimer and his proposed new residence at 945 Indigo Point. Everybody received the 11 by 17s, and I tried to make them as self-explanatory as possible. The only variance that we're requesting, according to the form, was the projection overhang.
And that is a special exception?
that's a special exception, not a variance.
Right. If you're familiar with the area, and I'm sure you are, at the end of the street, there are two big houses, and to our left is a big Tudor. So we're trying to comply with the square footage requirements of Gulfstream, and that makes us a little small compared. And Dan has lived on this property for some time and knows the property. So he likes the orientation a lot, he likes the outside a lot. We're trying to ask for that so that we can get a little bigger patio so he can enjoy the outside. It's a West Indies style. We can thumb through some of these
Please,
pictures.
yes,
if you haven't
please.
already seen them.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
that's the existing house. This is the neighborhood. Stop right there. That's the one with the red square is Dan's property. The two that are to the right of that are on the end cap on the intercoastal, those are fairly large structures with full 2-story, first floor, second floor alignment. So they appear pretty massive compared to ours. So I'm trying to stay, and you can see at the second on the top right, you can see the Tudor. So it's pretty big compared to what we have. So that variance is only going to make that
Special exception.
special exception is only going to make us more commensurate with the neighborhood. You can keep these. This is the site plan, and we can go over the landscaping and the hardscape later, but it falls within the square footages if we get the special exemption. One more. That's the floor plan. You can see the patio in the back top left. Second floor. The sides don't align so there's the second floor offsets from the first floor. And those are all the square footage requirements, and you can see the chart on that side. That's page. What was that, 8? One more. Front elevation, and I'm trying here to show how I'm complying with the height restrictions, the extensions above the roof restrictions, the eave restrictions, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the entryway being no higher than 14 feet. So we've gone over, and the staff has been wonderful. We've met with the staff several times to go over all of this to make sure that we comply with all of the Gulfstream requirements. And I think that's what we'll say.
Okay, thank you.
That's the rear. The middle drawing there shows the percentages for openings. Every elevation has the percentage of openings indicated. Last one.
Can we just hold on that? The total glass area, what's the overall?
Well, because each plane is different,
Yeah,
you'll have to go through, if you have your 11 by 17,
Yep.
it might not be, I can't really see them on here, but
Yeah, you don't have to go through each one,
Right.
but just reading here, it says it's 45% for the glass.
in the back.
Yep.
The ones in the rear, we are hoping to get a little more. The sides I'm much less than what's required, and then the front I'm much less than what's required. Only in the back because of the views of the waterway. We're hoping to extend those just a little bit, but you'll see when we see the 3D model, because the covered patio sticks in front of most of these openings, and because of the rotation of the house on the lot, no other house in the community can see these windows. So, next one. And this starts the landscape.
Great, thank you.
You want to start with the landscape?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Joe Peterson, Boca Raton, Florida. You'll get LQ sheets. Or just the colored one. No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so I brought a colored plan in. The adjacent properties each have large hedges on them. To the east is an 8-foot small leaf clusia hedge. To the west is a ficus hedge. And at the exterior, at the entry to the site, I'm proposing a couple of specimen gumbo limbos. There's an existing cabbage palm there. In the island, bougainvillea standards, some low flowering shrubs and ground cover around that. Inside of that, you can see coconut palms on each side, a pair of sylvestris date palms at the entry with annuals beneath them. There's a couple of cabbage palms on the western side that we're keeping. There's 3 layers of landscaping plantings in front of the house, and that wraps around the eastern elevation as well. On both sides, we're proposing a line of calophyllum trees, beauty leaf, for privacy above the hedges. And in the back, again, the coconut palms, another pair of Sylvester date palms beyond the pool. At the little fire pit area, there's going to be, we're showing 4 pigeon plum trees at 14-foot height. And then along the seawall, along with the date palms and the pigeon plums, we're proposing some larger small leaf clusia shrubs and medium shrubs below them. That's it pretty quick.
Thank you.
You can see the front elevation.
Yes.
Okay.
I see it there. And obviously, we always say that the landscape plan is as it is finished, not as in this will grow in 20 years' time to.
Yeah.
Yes.
The front elevation, I'm proposing the gumbo limbos at 16-foot high, and they're going to be specimens. Now, those I'm showing are 18 feet high, so I'm showing a little bit.
Yeah.
The date palms were 12-foot clear trunks, and I think they're 13-foot, so it's close to.
Okay. Because
I took some liberties, but not much.
Right. We have had instances where it's full
Yeah,
foliage.
the hedge is the correct height on there.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is that the end of the presentation?
That's mine, yes, unless you have questions.
Okay. So we open it up to
I have,
the board.
well, you can go first.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one item here. The architect said that they meet the FAR. They're actually 24 square feet over, even if you approve the 300 square foot special exception. And the architect actually makes a note of that in his own documents here.
Okay, thank you.
So first I have a couple of questions. On the color rendering, it looks like it's kind of a flat stone, and then on the black and white, it looks like it's an uneven, kind of jagged front.
I don't think they had the hatch, that they just show it as a mono color, but it's actually going to be a stone.
Right, but I'm saying that this looks like a flat stone, and this looks like it's a bumpy,
Right, more of a stone. It's like they call it an ashlar pattern.
right,
So
which
the
one?
stone was going to be in a pattern. The modeler just made it a monolithic. He didn't really show it as a stone, but it's.
Yeah, do you have a
It's sheet
Some-
A1.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So it's not as pronounced as on the dark lines from the architectural drawing, but it will be a pattern.
This looks like a combination.
In a material. It's not just paint. It's
So
stone.
that is this material?
Only at the stair tower.
So then we have 3 different, we have siding,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
flat, and this. Is that what I'm
Right.
understanding?
The siding is not a real siding though. It's stucco.
So we've got stucco sidings and the textured.
Right.
Covering that.
The siding only occurs on the second floor.
Yeah.
So again, the color rendering doesn't depict the stone type.
Color rendering.
Yeah.
This one right here.
This one.
I don't think he's understanding your,
Good point.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that doesn't.
so this one right here does not show the same type of siding in the front.
Yeah, the architecture drawing, the one that I drew definitely has a couple more
Okay.
lines that represent the stone in a different pattern. The pattern that he's representing in the model is that stone more in a stack pattern, a little bit flusher, a little bit smoother than the one that I.
Okay.
Right, but is it,
Which one? Yeah.
so is it somewhere between the two? These look, like this looks small and busy. This looks big and very uniform. So where do we
It's going to be
fall?
bigger and uniform, more uniform.
So it's gonna be more like this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the actual sample. My drawing was done before the sample was selected. That's the actual sample. So you have the actual.
Right, that's the
Okay, so
actual,
this was,
That's what's
the
gonna be on the building, yeah.
this was the original.
Yeah, my drawing, when we all met earlier,
Right.
we didn't have a sample. We didn't know what the material was. Now we know what the material was. and that's
Gotcha.
it.
which
Okay.
is reflected in this.
It's reflected in there.
Yeah, we just wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Should I just keep going?
Yeah, keep going. You're on a
And
roll.
then if we can move to the back. We were talking about the windows, and I think we're over the percentage of windows that we're
Yes.
supposed to have,
Yeah.
correct? And I also realized there's no mullions anywhere.
There's no what?
Mullions, there's just big pieces of glass that aren't divided up at all.
In the rear?
Yes,
Correct.
and the
You
one
wanna
long
divide-
glass.
Are we dividing the rear? And we're trying not to hide the view of the back, that's all.
Well, I know, but our preferred style here is
Is Mullins.
But
mullions.
because these windows are not really, if you can spin that around, because this rear is not really gonna be seen from anyone, even the person across the
But
canal
that's
from us.
That's
that
not,
doesn't-
yeah, that doesn't, yeah.
Oh, you can add them if you need them.
And then the glass balcony, it just looks very modern from the back, and that's not.
Well, the Mayans would stop that, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, that it can't be seen, I mean, just go to follow that argument all the way down, we'd have people with 40-foot trees and saying we're building this behind the closed doors.
So if we did the Mayans in the back, that would probably tie it better in with the other sides in the front then.
Well, and we'd still have to lessen the amount of glass, because we can't approve something that's.
No, it's, I mean, 40% is the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right,
So
so,
not exceeding by much.
no,
okay,
it's-
but the code says 40%, and it also says mullions or buttons.
Okay, so
On the
we're
glass.
agreeing with the Muttons and the Mayans. The sliding glass doors, I guess, would have to come down in size to,
and it's a case of, you know, we apply the code. It's a clear number, you know, and it isn't like it's just over, it's either over,
5% is
Yeah.
not much.
and that's the point. It's not much, but 40% would be, we would be having the discussion.
If you want 45%, then that would require a variance.
And that variance, as you've witnessed, has 8 criteria that have to be addressed.
Okay.
So that would be,
So I guess I have to reduce the window size and the door size
Yeah, and
By
it's difficult when it's a
It
new
is.
build, it's hard for us to
yeah,
bend on
by
it.
5%.
yeah, because it's a brand new build. Yeah.
We would be approving a non-conforming structure.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. And
And that also goes for the extra 24 feet, doesn't it?
correct.
yeah, and that's, I mean, it's a beautiful, and I know it's aesthetic, but it's a, you know, intended beautiful property.
Mhm.
But the difference in the floor area ratio is 24 square feet. Can that, if the 24 square feet
What's the percentage of that?
of,
Minimum.
yeah,
If I
it is,
eliminate
it
the
is.
25 feet, and are we okay with the 30, the 300 exempt?
Well, that would go to the
Special
both, but
exception?
those are, I'm not putting words in your mouth, those are the two main things
Those-
which stand out.
Yes.
I can get rid of 25 feet.
Well, but
Okay.
it's also the special exception. Again, we're talking about a new build. And usually when there's a new build, there's no reason to have any special exceptions. And that's
Okay,
how we usually
Mhm.
follow it.
I've gone through several of your past applications and it's been granted.
So Mr. Kolstag has indicated his willingness to reduce the rear glass so it conforms and
Yeah.
also conform as it relates to the square footage.
Mhm.
So if you could just address the special exception criteria to get the extra 300 square feet, so we can kind of address that here at this meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's the sole focus now, the 300 square feet exception.
and like I said, because we are surrounded by bigger houses, this covered patio is really where the makeup is. And I think if you look at us compared to the rest, it makes us blend better with the community with this exception than without it. Because otherwise, we're even smaller.
How does it relate to the other lot size?
So it is a smaller lot. That's why Mr. Kolstag keeps on harping on
Yep.
the fact that the neighbors are a lot larger because they have much larger properties. I
Right.
mean, if you have a larger property, the key in floor area ratio is ratio,
Yeah.
right? If you have 1 acre, you're going to have a lot bigger house than someone who has a half acre.
Yep.
So his neighbor to the east is on the water, and then their neighbor to the south is also on the water on the cul-de-sac. So those are larger lots than what Mr. Dorsheimer has.
Right. And Georgette, I remember the discussions about if it's a new build, why are we going down the special exceptions? However, did we not have an application 3 months ago where we granted a special exception on a new build? I don't think it was it wasn't the 300 square feet exception. But can you recall that?
It was 222 square feet.
Yeah, no, sorry, this isn't your application.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
The one that, because I reviewed all the other
Yeah,
ones that were passed before, I think you're referring to the one that was 222 square
A
feet.
special exception on a new
Special
build,
exception, it was granted.
and it was on a new build.
Another,
Sorry,
to
just
the
to finish that
point
point.
also about.
Sorry,
the
just to
massing.
finish that point.
Oh, yeah.
And it was on a new build.
Yeah, it was it was a brand new house application.
Yeah. No, I don't think you, because we asked the same point. Yeah. Thanks. That's
Yep.
because it was just from the recall, and it was the same thing. And this was a few years ago. We said, why are we granting exceptions? But there are points to take into account when we consider this, and they're not as thick. And they are, obviously, we have criteria to assess, but not the 8 points. Because if you go down the variances, you've seen it's very, very demanding on the applicant.
Right.
So-
Just for the record, so we know what we're looking at, this is a special exception under section 7072, special exception floor area ratio sub B, roof projections, and it reads as follows, if you'll just humor me so we know what we're looking at. Roof projections, up to 300 square feet of roof projections, parentheses, covered unenclosed floor areas, close paren, may exceed the maximum permissible FAR subject to the following. 1, the maximum floor area ratio in excess of FAR is 300 square feet. One or more roof projections may be approved under this special exception, provided the total floor area of all projections does not exceed the maximum permitted FAR by more than 300. So he's asking for 300, so
And it
that's
wouldn't have-
consistent.
And if we granted 300 because of your saying that you were willing to address the 24 square feet, we would meet precisely.
That would meet that. And then the standards for review, there are 5. The roof projection shall be compatible and complementary to the architecture of the structure and shall add appropriate architectural detail to a relief to a facade. B, the roof projection shall not make the structure look more massive. C, the total floor area of the roof projection shall not exceed the maximum by more than 300. D, for each 1 square foot of roof projection over the maximum permissible, 2 square feet of roof projection must be provided that are within the maximum permissible FAR and shall remain forever unenclosed. So to get the 300, he's got to have 600. So do you have a total of 900?
Patios, yeah.
900, okay, so he's indicating that he's met that. And then the last one is just that they need a deed restriction indicating that that'll forever remain unclosed so long as the structure exists.
Okay.
So essentially, it needs to not make it look more massive and be complementary to the architectural style.
Right. And looking at your plan,
Yeah, never be
plan, elevation plan, that seems to, let me just check something, please. Yeah, and when you, sorry, this is my opinion, it doesn't make it look more massive with that overhang.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Any more public, or sorry, board comment, public comment? Sorry, Georgia.
If we do a contingent approval, would I resubmit with the smaller opening?
It'll be part of the option, if we go forward, how we go forward, the motions will be with that. I'll give you a scenario. If it's approved, and it can be conditional, saying, moving forward to the commission meeting, you have agreed to do the reduction of the glass and the reduction of the 24 square feet, and that will be part of the presentation.
Right.
It will, those changes will be incorporated, which go to the commission.
And the mullions.
And the mullions. I'll get the mullions. Okay. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I've spoken to the deputy clerk and the town manager, and the feeling is that this should be deferred to the next month due to the fact that we're changing some design with the glass and the square footage, and that those be addressed at the next month's meeting.
So it goes on the cycle, it will come back to
To the ARPB
staff.
next month.
It'll come back to staff, you'll review it again. So when the packet's put together, it will be addressing.
I mean, of course, we'll work with Mr.
Yeah,
Colstock
as you said.
and make sure that gets done. Just that there's an issue with the turnaround for the town commission, getting all these extra sheets and being prepared, so.
Okay. And I'm sorry.
And a potential change in the design.
Potentially. However, from what we've discussed here, with your willingness to address the points we said, and the fact that our recommendation, we think, may approve it, and we're not having a formal vote, we request that you come back to the next meeting.
So for timing wise, there's no way to get a contingent because the square footage of the openings in the back, I guess that's what you need to see. Right? The openings in the back.
Yeah, it's a beautiful home.
What 5%?
But it's, I know, but it's, as again, it's the codes there or there. It's not half dead. It's okay. So in that case, do we need a motion for that, or can I?
Yes, sir. We need a motion to defer to a time certain, which would be the next ARPB meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sorry, Rob. We need to just address those points, which will come back with all the concessions of the wrong word, the changes to the design that you've indicated. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to recommend deferral to the next meeting of the ARPB in July. That will show the 25-foot reduction in square footage of the floor area, as well as the rear glass area reduced to 40%.
And the mullions.
And the mullions on the windows in the rear.
And it's 24 square feet.
He said 25, so
Yeah, it's 24.
24, apologies.
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah,
No, it is.
I was going off of what you had said.
Okay. Is that okay for the motion, or do you want it to say again with this precise? That's correct. In that case, Renee.
Do you need a second?
Second, sorry.
Sorry, I was not.
Like I used to.
Mr. Canfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes. Thank you for the
Thank you very
presentation, and thank you for the understanding in terms of, it's
Yeah.
half dead. We don't have that.
I like that half bit. I've never heard that, but it makes sense.
Yeah. It's an absolute. Okay, thank you, everyone. So moving on, we now ask for items by staff.
I don't have any items for you to consider. I just wanted to make a comment. I just wanted to tell you guys that the last poles as part of our undergrounding project are coming down now.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
The ones that are left are from Little Club to Golf View on A1A. And so those are coming down as we speak.
As we speak.
Yes.
My goodness.
Very cool.
So that will be.
And then we'll start the next stuff, right?
Yeah, right. Then we start the CIP project.
Right.
Thank you, Greg, for that. Any items by board members? Nope. Or the public who are no longer with us? And in that case, I would like to call this meeting, adjourn this meeting.
Meeting?